Hey, before we start, hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss this story. The first thing I remember was a clatter, the metallic crash of forks hitting the floor, and the sudden, suffocating silence that followed. The restaurant lights shimmered over polished glassware, the low hum of conversation fading into the background as my world narrowed to the scene in front of me. There she was, my wife, leaning against a stranger I didn't recognize, her lips pressed against his. Her perfume, the one I bought her last Christmas, mixed with a faint smell of his cologne, and I felt my stomach drop. Laughter erupted somewhere behind me, but it felt distant, irrelevant, a cruel soundtrack to my shock. We'd come to the company dinner as a pair. I wore my navy suit, ties slightly loosened, trying to blend into the polite chatter of colleagues. She'd chosen that emerald dress I loved, fitted, elegant, understated. I remembered thinking she looked radiant that evening, and now that thought stabbed me in the chest like a betrayal I couldn't escape. The night had started like any other, glasses clinking, awkward jokes about quarterly earnings, our phones discreetly tucked in our pockets. But she had been texting more than usual, sneaking glances at her phone with that tiny smile I should have recognized but didn't. "Work stuff," she had said, brushing it off when I asked. I had nodded, trusting, believing. I watched them for what felt like hours, though it was only seconds. Her hand rested lightly on his arm, her laughter lighter than it should have been. My own hand was shaking, the wine glass slipping in my grip, spilling a red smear across the white linen. I wanted to speak, to yell, to run, to freeze, but I did none of those things. And then, just as suddenly as it began, she looked toward me. For a fraction of a second, our eyes met. The smile never faltered, but the kiss ended. She turned back to him, casual, as if nothing had happened. That look. It was a question I couldn't answer. Had she wanted me to see it? I swallowed hard, feeling the room tilt. The laughter continued, glasses clinking, but I couldn't hear it. My mind raced. How long had this been going on? Who was he? And more painfully, why hadn't I noticed? I stayed frozen, heart hammering, until the crowd shifted, and she disappeared behind a laughing colleague. My chest felt hollow. I knew this night had changed everything, but I had no idea how deep the fracture would go. The drive home was a blur. The city lights streaked past the windshield, fragmented by the rain, each droplet on the glass catching reflections that felt like tiny shards of my life breaking apart. I didn't speak. She didn't either. The car smelled faintly of her perfume, the one I used to find comforting, now a cruel reminder of what I'd just seen. Back in our apartment, everything felt sharper, the white walls too bright, the soft from the refrigerator too loud. I tried to focus on something normal, the way the curtains swayed in the breeze, the hum of the heater, but my mind kept replaying the kiss. Not just the kiss, the ease, the comfort, the way she'd rested against him as though she belonged there. She sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone. I watched her fingers glide over the screen, the glow illuminating her face, highlighting the serene confidence I no longer recognized. "Busy night?" I asked, my voice brittle. She looked up, smiled faintly. "Yeah, lots of work messages," she said, casual. But I knew that smile, it wasn't for me. Later, I couldn't sleep. I pulled out my phone and hesitated over the messages I'd been ignoring for months. Little signs I had brushed off. Delayed replies, vague excuses, unexplained laughter in texts she left open. I opened her chat with him, one I hadn't noticed before. My stomach nodded as I read. "Had a great time tonight. Can't wait for next week winking face. Me too. Can't stop thinking about you." I felt something inside me snap, a mixture of rage, heartbreak, and disbelief. How long had this been going on? Weeks? Months? The thought that every laugh, every tender moment I thought was ours might have been borrowed for someone else made my chest tighten. I confronted her the next morning, not angrily, not yet, but quietly. "Who is he?" I asked, my voice low, trembling. She hesitated, a flicker of guilt passing across her face, then leaned back, as though bracing herself for a confession. "It's complicated," she said. "It's not what you think." But I had already seen enough. I didn't need explanations. I could see the truth in her avoidance, in the careful way she avoided my eyes, and the way her hand brushed against mine without warmth. By the time I left for work, the apartment felt like a stage set. Everything in place, nothing real. I couldn't tell if I was more terrified of confronting her again, or terrified of pretending I hadn't already seen it all. And deep down, I feared that this was just the beginning, that I came home that night with a resolve I hadn't felt in weeks. The apartment was quiet, almost too quiet, the dim light of the living room casting long shadows across the floor. She was there, sitting in the same spot on the couch, phone in hand, scrolling. But now I didn't hesitate. I dropped my bag, took a deep breath, and said it plainly. I saw him at the company dinner. She froze, phone slipping from her fingers. Her eyes widened, not with fear, but with mixture of shame and defiance. You saw? She whispered, voice barely audible. Yes, I did. I felt my hands trembling, but I forced myself to stay calm, and I need to know why. She looked away, biting her lip, as if words themselves were too heavy to carry. The silence stretched, oppressive, until finally she spoke. I don't know anymore. I feel trapped. I don't mean to hurt you. I stopped her with a shake of my head. Don't try to justify it. I loved you. I trusted you. And now, I don't even know who I married. Tears welled in her eyes, but it wasn't relief. It was regret, raw and bitter. She reached for my hand, but I pulled back. That small gesture, once a comfort, now felt like poison. I can't do this anymore, I said, voice firm. I can't unsee what I saw. I can't pretend there's nothing wrong. She whispered, almost to herself, I'm sorry. I didn't answer. I walked toward the door, my heart heavy, chest tight, but somehow lighter than it had been for weeks. I didn't know if I would forgive her, or if we would ever recover, but I knew this. Love isn't just about memories or moments or laughter shared. It's about trust. And once trust breaks, everything else feels hollow. That night, as I closed the door behind me, I felt a mix of heartbreak and liberation. The world outside was dark, rain tapping gently against the windows, but for the first time, I felt like I could breathe again. Painful, yes, but honest, real. Sometimes, letting go is a weakness. It's the only way to survive the person you once thought would never hurt you. And in that silence, I understood that love, even when it breaks, leaves a lesson you can't ignore. Value yourself enough to walk away from what doesn't honor you. If this story moved you, or made you think about trust, heartbreak, or betrayal, share your thoughts below. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that hit hard but feel real.